excited. Like, like people were doing so cool. When I found out this was here, I was like, yeah, I probably should not call it family up the hill.
Enjoy the rides at work. Wasn't really sure what to expect.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
And I'm here through environment here too, Lynn Environmental Volunteers, who just started like a month ago. So I'm starting to try to find, yeah, the friends. Nahant.
Yes.
Yeah, there was one meeting I joined. GTR maybe 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. There's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they get good turnouts.
Yeah, and I didn't realize there were like the stuff. That's awesome.
Good evening, everybody. Can folks hear me? Can folks on the Zoom hear me? Bob, Tucker, can you hear me? Nod your head if you can hear me.
We got you, Chris.
All right. All right, just throw something up in the chat at any point if you are having trouble hearing. Hi, I'm Chris Mancini. I'm the Executive Director of Save the Harbor, Save the Bay, and this is the first Save the Harbor / Metropolitan Beaches Commission in-person workshop since 2019. So give yourself a round of applause. Partially in person. So yeah, we're so glad you're here. We really need your input. I'm going to get into that in a minute, and I'm going to actually turn it over to our co-chair of the Metropolitan Beaches Commission and your senator, Linda Creighton.
Entire Metropolitan Beaches Commission for all the work you continue to do for us. We really appreciate it. Obviously, a lot goes in at the staff level to coordinate these events. And I really appreciate everyone coming out here tonight or joining us online. Obviously, not the best night to go out and travel. There's major accidents and traffic issues, but you guys made it here. We really appreciate that. I want to just recognize a few elected officials. We have City Councilor Nicole McLean is going to be joining us remotely, I believe now. Also a member of the commission as well. Looks like we have Mark Cullinan, who's a select board member from Nahant. There's a big bubble there, so I might be missing someone behind that bubble, but we also have Sean Reed, who's a school committee member here in Lynn as well. So as I was thinking just a bit about all the work that Save the Harbor and the commission has been doing, focus on climate resiliency, and obviously some of the more severe storms and coastal erosion that we're seeing, I thought back to the day I was elected to Senate, which was March 6, 2018. And on that day, then Chief Dwyer, the Nahant police chief, took me out in this really souped up SUV, very high above everything, and we needed to be because the peninsula was essentially flooded. It was like something out of a movie. I couldn't believe it. It's an area that I've visited my whole life and represented for so long, and it felt like it completely sunk into the ocean. Obviously, serious damage throughout the coast on all sides of the peninsula, also on the Lynn side as well. It's just the causeway, and I don't have to think back that long because these storms continue to occur again, maybe not to that extent, but it's expected that they're going to. We live right near Lynn Shore Drive, and anytime there's a storm, I take my kids down there. I'm guilty of it. I don't want to celebrate coastal erosion and severe storms, but we go down there to watch the waves. And, they're at the ages now, 84, where they, ask them questions. They're interested in learning about climate change and talking to them about, while it's fun to go watch, the waves coming, that this is a serious problem, and to think about the next generation and what we're leaving them with. And obviously, everyone here is here for a reason. It's because you join us in this fight to protect our coastline. And tonight we have a great opportunity to, not think globally, though we'd love to, but to zoom in here locally on for Nahant and Lynn, and to think about ways that, things that we want to see, we want to continue to work on and invest on, but also just to hear your thoughts. So as a politician, many of you have heard me blab on and on and on. I'm going to land the plane and just give one, again, great thank you for what is a start of, I think, a really productive conversation with a wide range of stakeholders. So thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Senator, for being here. I know you have at least one other meeting to get to, so it means a lot that you made time for us. Aaliyah, are we able to share the presentation up here? And for the folks in the Zoom, we will jump right in. What we're here to talk about, climate. Everyone's always talking about climate change. We're hearing about it all the time. We are going to talk about it, of course, here, but I think we're going to do something a little bit different than what you might be used to because of who Save the Harbor, Save the Bay is and what the Metropolitan Beaches Commission is. And actually, I do want to also acknowledge another commissioner, Chris Biner, who's here, a representative from South Boston. I'm sorry, a representative from Dorchester, Chris Biner, also a Save the Harbor board member. And yeah, we have been working, Save the Harbor, on cleaning the water, Boston Harbor, since 1986. And it's a little bit weird to be making this presentation in Lynn, where we do have the dirtiest beach in the Commonwealth. It is also the reason I moved up here when I became executive director, because I saw my predecessor turn South Boston's beaches into the cleanest urban beaches in the country, and thought, well, that seems like a good idea for the next executive director. Go live at the dirtiest beach and take care of that. So some of you may have been to some of our conversations and meetings about pollution on Kings Beach. We are going to be focusing today on what Senator Crichton started talking about, coastal erosion. And we're really trying to zero in on the long-term picture and what people value. People in this room, people in the Zoom room, other people in the community, what's important to you about your beach in particular? We really feel like we spent 40 years investing money in cleaning up the harbor. We're investing more in cleaning up Kings Beach specifically. We spent a ton of time, effort, and money connecting people to these resources. Some of you in this room have just written a Better Beaches grant to Save the Harbor and the NBC to get money to put on free programs. So I don't know the exact dollar. I know just the Better Beaches alone, it's about $3 million, and folks have leveraged an additional $7 or $8 million on top of that. So that's a lot of money to invest in teaching people and connecting people to these beaches. Now to realize that not only do we want to be connected to these resources, we actually have to be protected from these resources at the same time. And can these two things coexist? And can I get the next slide? So as we have this conversation today, the way this is going to kind of break down is we're going to just do a little background. I just did it on Save the Harbor, and we'll talk about the Metropolitan Beaches Commission. Why are we talking about the beach specifically? Basically, we want to ask the question, what do you want from your beach now? What do you want for your descendants, yours and your family and friends, your children, your grandchildren? What is the experience you hope that people 100 years from now will have that you really value, you'd like to see retained? And do those values currently align with our beaches? How can you help? We're going to be breaking into workshop groups. You can see we have 4 tables. You've already kind of separated yourselves into tables, although I know this one could probably use a couple extra folks, so we can readjust a little bit as we go. Zoom folks will be broken into breakout rooms. And we're going to be using something called the RAD framework, resist, accept, direct, and I'll talk about exactly what that is, to answer our questions. I'll share a few case studies, give you examples of the types of things that can be done. Then we'll break out into those groups to answer the questions, which will be up here. And then you'll report back. I'm hoping we'll get some stuff that we can, at the end of this, kind of vote. We can get some top level ideas, the things that are most important to this group. And we'll have stickers and have everyone go around the room and kind of put your stickers on the stuff that really means a lot to you. The goal here, the outcome of this, and we're going to be doing this workshop here, we're going to be doing it in all of the metropolitan beaches from Lynn and Nahant down to Nantasket Beach. And the goal is to be able to take those values and advise, make recommendations to the Metropolitan Beaches Commission, to the DCR, Department of Conservation and Recreation, and to the towns and cities on strategies or policies or practices that they could look at to make these values, retain these values, and keep the beaches what we want them to be. All right, so let's get right into it because we don't want to be here all night. Aaliyah, next
Yes.
Yeah, so I already talked a little bit about Save the Harbor. We do a lot of stuff besides managing the Metropolitan Beaches Commission, including a lot of what we do is free programs. We've experienced some of the Better Beaches programs, most likely. We also do free cruises to the Harbor Islands. We have a jobs program for high school students. And what else do we do? We do a lot of stuff. Sorry, the goal is to clean and protect the resources and share them with everybody. So next slide. Okay, can I get the next slide?
Yes.
Just a few of the stuff that we've done over time. We did successfully advocate for the Boston Harbor cleanup, eliminated all the outflow pipes on South Boston's beaches. That's why they are the cleanest urban beaches in the country. We're working on improving communication and flagging about the cleanliness of the beaches. Now, let's just keep going. And we manage the Metropolitan Beaches Commission for the state legislature. And there's some great photos. Yeah, I skipped that one. Up to the NBC. And the Metropolitan Beaches Commission is tasked, is made up of elected officials and community representatives from the Metropolitan Beaches region to make recommendations on the maintenance, the improvement, and access to our beaches. And I did just see that Nicole McLean, our city councilor here in Lynn, and the community representative for the nonprofit seat on our Better Beaches, on our Metropolitan Beaches Commission is here. Nicole, would you like to jump in and say a few words while we're on our NBC slide?
Oh, absolutely. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for inviting me and recognizing me, Chris. Thank you so much. So being a commissioner on the Metropolitan Beaches Commission has been an amazing experience. And the Lynn Beach in King Beach is very close to my heart. So I'm happy to be a part of, bringing people of various cultures to that beach and being a part of making sure that, everyone is, experiencing the beach in a safe and healthy way. Working with the commission and with the counselors to make sure that that we're cleaning Kings Beach is paramount in my a paramount issue to me. And I want to make sure I'm working with the community to push forward that issue to the state and work with our state delegation to make sure we're exploring all possible solutions to making sure the beach is a safe and clean and usable, swimmable beach. So thank you so much for recognizing me, Chris. I don't want to hold up too much of your presentation.
Thanks so much, Nicole. Glad to have you here. All right, Aaliyah, let's keep going on this.
Oh, yeah.
So as I said, our goal here is to try to understand in this phase. Last year, the NBC released a report on equitable access to the beaches, focusing on barriers along lines of language, physical ability, and race, and have been implementing some of the recommendations that came out of that report over the last year. We will continue to do that. And currently, we are adding a new item to our agenda to understand the physical conditions at the 14 beaches in that region I mentioned. The beaches specifically that are maintained by the DCR, and understand how these are going to change over time and how we can mitigate those challenges, but also accepting the idea that things are going to change. So how do we adapt? How do we enhance our relationship to the waterfront and to the beaches? Again, why the beach? Obviously, it's squarely in Save the Harbor's mission, but we think that these beaches, including Lynn and Nahant's beaches, they provide, they're an ecological, economic, and recreational resource. We already have, just the sunk costs. We spent 30 or 40 years investing millions, maybe even tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in these resources. We know that this change is happening, it's growing, and we have to reevaluate the future and adapt to that. We know that these beaches provide a great harbor ecosystem. They do buffer against climate change. So there are some, part of this conversation will be, well, we might not have to do anything because the beaches are protecting the infrastructure. But again, we would like to know, to find out if we can have both. And obviously it can promote health, mental health, physical health, and public health. So again, our goal for this meeting, I'm saying it a lot because I just want to, when we get into our breakout groups, I want people to really feel like they know what to say. Yeah, understand how the beaches are used in your community, understand what you value about them, and learn how the change is going to impact the beaches and how it already is impacting. So we really are looking for your local expertise. How do you see, how you directly experience that? I know I had my first like real climate change experience about a month ago, the big storm during the king tide, folks. My daughter and I went down to watch the waves, just like Senator Crichton, and we got so excited. We said, let's go look at other waves. And we go from Lynn to Swampscott, and we drove into Marblehead. And I said, it's probably really cool out on Marblehead Neck. So we drove out there. And when we tried to get back, we couldn't. They had closed the neck, and it was actually throwing rocks and boulders up onto the causeway. We sat there. Everything was really fun for the first hour, and then really boring for the last 3 hours. We got stuck in one spot. It was kind of a bonding experience, but very self-determined. So, how important is the beach to your community? We're talking about 2 beaches. We're talking about Lynn, Kings Beach, and Nahant Beach. Obviously, I'm expecting folks to use both of those beaches up here. We, the city of Lynn and the planning department did a hazard mitigation plan a few years ago. And so we do know that shoreline change has been identified as a top concern, and that as part of the preparedness system, we know it's going to lead to increased shoreline erosion, and it's going to. Anyway, the point is, we've done our research. We know this is an important issue. We're trying not to reinvent it. So a couple years ago, we did a report on imagining the Bay State without beaches, looking at projected coastal inundation zones. So we have we can bring these slides back up during the breakout session as a reference. But you can see, the potential inundation zone up in Kings Beach. You basically lose the entire beach just right off the bat. The seawall is doing its job, but along the historic Stacey's Brook, we do get that flood zone into the inlet area. We also know that seawall is in constant need of improvement repair and work. Nahant, obviously, this is partially a man-made causeway, and again, with that inundation during those high tides, you could, in this scenario, basically lose the entire causeway, which obviously presents challenges to the people who live out there, in addition to losing the actual beach. So, again, we're fairly confident that this change is going to be happening. So, next slide. All right, so this is how we are thinking about this issue. Resist, accept, direct. This is a framework developed by the National Park Service to manage for ecological management. We like this framework because it encompasses the entire decision and kind of tries to look at the different options and can assist us with deciding how to respond. And that we have options in the ways that we can respond and really picking the best solution for a specific scenario. So we may have a different solution in Lynn than we have in Hull or in East Boston, for example. And it's not necessarily, you don't have to feel like you have to give us the answer to it. Oh, you should definitely do this, and here's what you should do. Although if you have a really strong idea, write it down. We'd love to know that too and follow up on it. But again, we're really trying to capture like what's important to us up here. So it'll be a next slide, please. Just for a visual aid, to resist. That is to metaphor of a sailboat. Lower the sail, turn the engine on, and fight back against the change that is coming, right? So to get to the destination you want through resistance. Accept scenario is to just accept the change is happening, lower the sails, and let the wind and the seas blow you wherever it wants to. And then direct. That's to raise the sails, use the sails, and guide, work kind of in tandem with the change that is happening. I'm realizing now as I'm saying it out loud, I think this almost is set up to make it seem like direct is like the best version of this. And I just don't want us to fall into that trap. Obviously that might be ideal if we can have it all, but we might just want to at some point realize like, well, in this particular case, we have to go with the resist framework. Are going to get everything we want. We're going to have to use accept because we just refer that out. Aaliyah, do you want to come up and talk a little bit about these efforts?
So this one was actually in the news recently. So you guys have heard about Resilient Coast, which is an initiative by the state to work on. Can everyone hear me without the mic? No?
It's better for the TV.
So we have a new Resilient Coast effort, which is going to be by the state, and they've already started working on that. And basically, they're going to be working on coming up with plans for all of the coast of Massachusetts. It's in its early stages right now, so we're still waiting to learn more about what the plans are going to be, who's going to be leading that within the state, and it's going to be with CZM as well.
Coastal Zone Management.
Yeah, coastal zone management.
Yeah, just as a quick reference, what,
Yeah.
what Boston's doing.
Yeah, so this is the big one that's been happening. This is probably the one you guys read online, but city, Climate Ready Boston has been done by the city of Boston. It was released in 2016. And it's a comprehensive report about the city of Boston and just climate resiliency efforts that want to get done there, what concerns there are along the coast, and coming up with ways and ideas to create a more climate resilient Boston. And then, and then Resilient Boston Harbor is also part of the Climate Ready Boston efforts, focusing specifically on Boston Harbor and not just the neighborhoods. And then additionally for local efforts, we have gotten like 40 Steps Beach has a coastal zone management grant, which is a grant that allows
Music break.
a certain time.
I think it's a doorbell.
Yeah, so 40 Steps Beach received a coastal zone management grant from the state, which the goal was to prepare for severe storms and some climate change concerns. So it's going to be a process where they can create a guideline and plan for how to address climate concern change or climate change concerns at 40 Steps Beach specifically. And then also there's a short beach grant, which was for specifically short beach loans. And then also for Lynn, there's been Lynn hazard mitigation planning, which is to address flooding, severe storms, winter storms, and extreme weather events.
All right. We're almost at the end here. This is just some of the case studies and some of the strategies and engineering solutions that are available for some of these things. You may have heard of some or all of these things. I'd be surprised. Cobble berms are something that works with the wave motion. They work to mimic the natural state of a beach. You put them at the base of a dune area, and they provide some wave attenuation while shoring up like a dune situation. Can really slow down that dune erosion over time. And there are some already in use in Winthrop, Duxbury, Falmouth, and other places. So can I go to the next one? Seawalls. I think we're all very familiar with seawalls up here. We've included some photos of some more dramatic seawalls. These are in Japan because of tsunami barriers. They're incredibly large, but they're necessary up there because of the threat from an earthquake and tsunami. But again, over time, is this something we are going to have to think about based on projections? The seawalls are a hardscape. They do resist the wave. They do protect against that high storm surge. They have a really great use in that way. But they do limit the distance that the beach can move and change. And the priority is going to be, hey, we have to make sure the beach stays. Seawall is going to be maybe not the thing that's going to work with that. And it can cause increased erosion in front of the seawall. I had not thought this slide out completely, but this is from the Lynn mitigation plan. Just some different versions of how you can understand. living seawalls. This is the living seawall technology. I don't know if that's the right word, but was recently a recipient of a company in Australia, the Earthshot Prize. If folks remember when that came to Boston, Prince William came here and they had a big event. They can modify those flat featureless hardscapes on the seawall. They don't necessarily do much in addition to prevent erosion or stop the wave, but what they do is that they can increase biodiversity and the amount of life in the ecosystem, which is something you do lose with the seawall. So it is something that's like, hey, we've got to do seawall, but here's something that does make sure we can keep some of these values that they have. Next slide. Then there's this idea of wild by design. The idea that, and I'm mentioning a place, Oakwood Beach in Staten Island, had to do this. They got to the point where like there were about 300 homes just threatened. They had to basically buy up the homes, move people out in short order. And you can see this after about 3 or 5 years, the area has like returned to almost a natural state and does act as now a natural buffer for the rest of Staten Island, for the inland neighborhoods. There's also a town south of San Diego called Imperial Beach. They have not needed to do this yet, but they have made a decision as a community to have a long-term plan so that no one's going to be forced out of their homes there, but if anyone sells their home or someone passes away, the city buys it at market rate. Because they prioritize the beach. The beach is the heart of that community, it's the driver of tourism, and they don't see them existing without the beach. So they're making plans now, so they don't have to do it in an emergency situation to allow the beach to just do what we will naturally do over time. All right, so this is your background, and now we're going to break into our breakout groups. I see some folks standing in the back. A lot of you came. There are plenty of seats up here if you join a table. On your table, you have either a Nahant Beach map or a Kings Beach map. You have a big map. You also have some smaller sheets of paper, the visual that you can grab. We'd love for you all to just discuss. You can choose one or the other or both. You can also choose your seat based on what the item is there. And presume folks, we will break you into, I think, 2 breakout rooms if we can do that. Choose a note taker and a presenter here to keep track of what you're coming up with, and try to answer the following questions, which I'm going to put up on the next slide in a much larger format so you can reference it. And if you're on Zoom or you're here and you want to, or you're watching on television and scan this QR code, you can answer these questions on an online form. So I'm just going to say the questions out loud. We're going to take about a half an hour, maybe 40 minutes to do this. If people start wrapping up, feel free to just raise your hand and let us know if you can wrap it up early. So the question, what's working right now? How do you, or your friends, or your community, how do you use this beach? What's going to change? What are the values you have that you would like to see retained as we adapt in the future? And this isn't tomorrow. Although some of these things might happen on a sporadic basis, as we've seen in the short term, but yeah, what is the thing you want to see and leave for the next generations? And then what's not working? What's missing in your current experience of the beach? What's missing from the plans that you're aware of that we need to be considering and heading? Yeah. But again, the heart of the question is your value. What is the main value? What is the hot value about these resources? Oh yeah, before we do that, does anyone have any questions? All right, so I will also say we do have a group who's going to do a brief comment afterwards. From the Harvard Design School. They're working with the city of Lynn on, is it tree canopy and heat, so extreme heat conditions, so not directly beach related, but beach adjacent. And they have a brief questionnaire on their way out. Or if you'd like to talk to that, we'd love for you guys to interact with them. Yes, question.
What would you like us to do with this giant?
That's where you should take your notes as people are discussing and talking. I mean, again, it's a little free form, but what we want to hear afterwards is like, that's like kind of the note taker where you can report out, here's what we came up with. And then what we're gonna do is on those report outs is try to capture the top level stuff on multiple sheets, put them up, and have us go around at the very end of this with those. Yes.
Is this gonna address the outflow at all? I mean, this is a big.
No, I know, and it's maybe the biggest issue to me personally, Save the Harbor works on beaches from the Nahant and Nantasket, and my staff is here, they're always talking about Lynn and Stacey's Brook. This conversation was not specifically about that, but it's a great question. As you're talking about Kings Beach, I tried to, think like, how do we answer that question, right? Because the way we use Kings Beach now is, in terms of that last question, what's missing from your experience? I expect a lot of us are missing the experience of swimming at Kings Beach, right? Clean water. I would love if we kind of like, let's, for the sake of this exercise, you don't have to do this, you can do whatever, but I would suggest, let's make a hopeful assumption that we will get clean water, within 100 years. Because we're talking about this long term, we will hopefully have clean water within our lifetimes, within the rest of our lifetime. And then how do we want that? How do we value that beach with food? And you could have a conditional, if there's not clean water, I have a completely different opinion on what we should do on just a 20-foot seawall with a telescope. All right, thanks.
We have
And-
one.
Oh, we have a question on Zoom.
Hi, Mark, if you want to speak, they should be able to hear you.
Hi, guys. Thanks for holding this tonight. I was wondering, is there any way for people who are on Zoom to participate in this, either through the chat room, something along those lines?
Yes, for the folks on Zoom, we are gonna put you into 2 breakout rooms.
Yes, which you should also be able to see at the bottom of your screen. It will say breakout rooms, and I've created 2 for Kings Beach and then for Nahant Beach. So you can join the breakout room of your preference, and I will also be putting the Google form into the chat, and we will be monitoring those breakout rooms.
We would like the Zoom folks to do the same thing, answer those questions, and then report back to us with everyone else at the end of the breakout.
Okay.
Did you get that? Did you get that, everyone on Zoom? So they can opt in.
Yeah, they can choose.
So yeah, you should all be able to opt in to whichever breakout room you'd like.
They're moving in. Perfect.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So I think we have Nahant Beach, I would guess.
The other weekend I walked out
Yeah, I think we started with Nahant.
Yeah.
Waiting very. Questions on something.
Yeah, we need that part of it like this.
Yeah.
So have you already picked which area you're going to work?
I think by semi-default, since we have a diameter of Nahant, we can start with Nahant, but we can do things.
Okay, well, it's more relevant to us because,
For Kings.
yeah, but.
What is, and then what's not working, what is missing from the current experience or plans for the future?
Anybody want to go first?
I think Aaliyah dropped the form in the chat too.
Aaliyah, is that you with the background noise?
Yes, it is. I'm gonna be working so that you guys don't hear all of the background noise from here. So if you could just give me 1 minute, but I've dropped the note-taking form in the chat, and I'm also gonna drop a PDF with 2 photos from Kings Beach and Nahant Beach if you wanna look at the photos as well.
Okay.
All right, let me actually mute myself.
Okay.
The Google form is in the chat. I just pulled that up.
Okay, I got the Google form up too now. So what's working? I think it's a beautiful place to walk, jog. People use it for that. It's a beautiful place to go with your dog. People use it for that. It's a beautiful place for kids to run around on that nice space that we have there. Um, Even walking on the sand, I see a lot of people using the sand, and I've seen artwork on the sand.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of great things happening. I mean, me personally, I had festivals there to bring the community. I've had the Diversity Matters Festival there for the last couple of years. There's music there. The 4th of July happens there. So it's a venue that's used to bring the community together. It's used for residents to do recreational activity. So that's what we have there right now.
And
So
there's fishing too. I don't know if they're still doing
fish.
that at the end of the Red Rock Park, but
Yeah,
that was a big thing.
yeah. There's a lot of water sports too. I see people doing the boarding. I don't know exactly what it is, and they have like the parachutes. Some of them on their boards, parasail. I don't know what you would call it, but
Yeah, like
there's kind of water
kite
sports.
boarding. Yeah.
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 Even they do that for they have like go-karts too. So they like
Yeah.
drive the carts.
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
mm, okay.
Yeah, I mean, even just like there's I don't know if it's part of Lynn technically or Nahant, but there's the playground too at the Rotary.
Oh
Like
yeah,
on
that
the
is
southern.
that's Lynn. That's on
Yeah.
the Lynn side. Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to live on Lynn Shore Drive. So our history is we lived on Lynn Shore Drive for 10 years, then up Beach Ave or not Beach Ave, up oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of the street that we lived on. Nahant Street. For a couple years. But we had our oldest there until she was about 4.5. So we were on that playground pretty much every day. That was her backyard.
Yeah. So that was great. Yeah, that's a great, it's a great place to go and do recreational activity other than swim.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And the beach house could be, it's a good resource now that it's open, there's bathrooms.
Right.
Obviously it could be better.
Yes, it could be better. And there could be more bathrooms, I think, on the other end, like going towards Swampscott. I think that if we could figure that out, that would be nice.
You're right. Yeah, because there's like that, they call it the halfway house to Nahant, but there's not really anything going up towards Swampscott.
Right,
Even
nothing else.
even like a spray station or something, because people will use the water fountain
Mhm.
as like a clean up your feet.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They do. Mm. Yeah. They do.
So that you guys want to go to the next one, that's what will change portion. What values would you like to see reflected as the beach adapts to future sea level rises? What experiences do you hope for our descendants?
I guess I'd hope it was King's Beach was clean, but
Mhm.
I mean, it would be nice to be clean for the descendants. I don't know if it'll be clean in my lifetime, but it would be
I
nice.
don't think it will be.
I don't think it will be, but it would be
I
nice.
don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm going to put. I would hope that our descendants could actually swim and enjoy a beach that they could,
Yeah.
on hot, sweltering days, really get relief at, like
Yeah.
something, and I see people using it even in these hot days. I've seen people use it and had to like go over and talk to them about the water and how it's not safe. And
Yeah.
it's just, there's not enough sign. That's what we should put too. I don't know if the signage is enough that is currently there and
Yeah.
if it's translated. I don't know if I've ever seen like a sign in Spanish or a sign in another language that says this beach is not a swimmable, or when it's not swimmable.
Mm.
Is there translation over there? Does anybody go there more than I do? That
So there might be, I know there was a QR code at one point.
it was a
Save
QR
the
code.
Harbor, I know, yeah, they worked on that a little bit. The thing that used to get me is it showed like no swimming. So it had like the person like X'd out swimming, and like people were still walking through the water and kids were
This
splashing in it. So
that
it's
is
not
not
like,
enough.
it's like
Yeah.
would see that, and I would talk to people, who were in just walking through the water at Stacy's outfall and say, you shouldn't be walking here, there's high bacteria. And they're like, well, it says no swimming, but I'm not swimming and there's just no
Not
lifeguards. Maybe that's why it said no swimming. I thought it was just because there's no lifeguards. I'm like, no, it's
It's
a
bacteria.
bacteria. Yeah. So I was like, go home, wash your feet, wash your hands, like all those things. And yeah, just be ready for the kids to get sick with a stomach bug. But yeah, so I think better, clearer communication or signage that.
Yeah, that's what I put. I put clear signage, translation of signs. I mean, I don't think a QR code, I mean, a QR code would work for me, but I don't know if it would, and is it consistent, like is there enough of them for people to see it at any part where they would, enter the water or into the beach?
Right.
Part.
Oh, there's some pictures in the chat. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say better accessibility down to the beach too. So the stairs, some of them are kind of falling apart. And I've heard from an individual who uses a wheelchair who says it's not as easy as you think. Like even on the hot beach, they had one of the accessible beach chairs, and that's gotten stuck in the sand. So, there have been situations where it's not as easy to use to get down to the beach. So it might be maybe accessibility for, handicap
For people with
access.
disabilities.
Yeah, it's near and dear to me right now because last year I spent a year in elementary and there was a boy in kindergarten who's he can walk, but he was somewhat wheelchair bound. And so he would talk to me about he likes the beach, but he couldn't always go. So that was kind of like heartbreaking for me. I was like, okay, I'm gonna push for this, in every way I can. Because he goes to the pool. It's he's like, I go to the pool and I can swim there, but I can't get to the water at the beach. So
At the beach.
yeah. And for reference, we live in Marblehead, so this was at Devereaux, but it's kind of the same issue. Like they have the same kind of chair that it's sometimes it works, but it can get stuck in the soft sand. It's hard to maneuver.
There should be a link.
And the other thing, I don't know if we want to talk about the flooding. Tiffany, you might have a better idea. So when we lived in Lynn Shore Drive, we were
Yeah.
at the Breakers building.
Yeah.
And the year that we moved was the year that we had a storm in March and the water
Yeah.
lapped up to our front door. And I was like, nope. That's it.
I mean, even the storm we had this year, I mean, it didn't get to the front door, but I mean, the waves managed to cross over and it got into like the middle of the street and like almost to the other end. So, I mean, it didn't get to but it got like almost halfway over like the street once the water came over, and then they had to close the street down.
So what about like a higher, I don't know if a higher wall or
Yeah.
the ability to add barriers when there's a storm? Because most of the storms are forecasted, so it's not like a big surprise.
Yeah.
You know there's going to be a high tide. It's a full moon high tide with 50-mile-an-hour winds blowing into the coast, and you know it's going to flood. It's the same, like,
I guess that would be something, I don't know, like you're saying something that would be put like on top of the existing wall as like a extra couple of feet or
barrier.
whatever barrier.
Yeah, just to block like the wave.
Oh yeah, so it would go over.
Yeah. So maybe the waves won't crash over and roll across the
just
street.
arms and stuff. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I
Even
wonder
in
what kind of material they would like yeah, but if they have that or something that we can,
even in Swampscott, it's the same issue up Humphrey Street. It definitely washes across on the Kings Beach, just north of Kings Beach side, I guess that is. I saw a video of a friend.
Put that in the what's not working area.
Right.
Oh yeah.
He drove his Jeep through it and like posted the video, and it was a Jeep that could drive through the water, but it was up to his doors.
Oh.
And he was driving, like taking a video, and he's like, "Yep, it's pretty bad. It's
Oh my
like
God.
3 feet of water. The ocean is here." And that was the storm, maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah. I guess that would be that would be something, nice to have or good to have, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. What were the other I sort of lost it with the questions. So
We did them all. We answered all of them. I submitted mine. I don't know if you guys submitted one for yourselves, but I think we covered all of them. Should we just go back to the main group?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it just leave room. Yep.
Right.
Is that all right? Maybe.
Leave breakout room, not leave meeting.
How do I? How do you? Oh, shoot! Did I do it? I don't know. Am I in the right spot? I don't even know.
So you can leave the room, and then not leave the meeting.
I don't know how to do this. Oh no. Where's the? Oh.
So at the bottom, if you click leave room, it will say leave room or leave meeting.
Oh, so if I click on leave, it'll give me the option.
I'm sorry, wait, what?
Oh, sorry. If I click on leave, it'll give me the option to leave room or leave meeting.
Yeah,
Is
so
that
you can stay
okay?
in
I
the
just want
Zoom
to make sure I
meeting.
don't click leave and it just kicks me back out. Oh, okay, leave break.
Yeah.
tell us your deep thoughts?
Can folks hear me on Zoom?
Can you do hear us? I'm just gonna
Yes.
invite you to make a quick explanation of what they have over here, because once we're done here on your way out, as you're mingling and taking a bag of chips or a banana with you, they have a really great setup over here. But Giovanna, why don't you explain better than I did what it is?
Thank you so much. We're students from Harvard and we're doing a study about extreme temperatures. So the idea is to understand a little bit about your experience in heat and Lynn. So summer is coming. We want to know where you guys go to cool down, where you guys feel most hot, and then we're gonna work on proposals with that. So that's what we need from you. We have two main activities. One is to get feedback, and one is a mood board where you can pin ideas of how to cool Lynn down. And we also have brochures with information about like cooling centers and places you can go to cool down. So that's it. It's really quick, and we have a rifle. And we have chocolate and that's it. Thank you.
All right, so would any group like to volunteer to go first? We'd like to hear, 5 minutes or less, kind of your top ideas. We're gonna keep all the ideas. We're gonna take all those notes and we're gonna create a summary and create all of our notes to kind of synthesize it. But we'd love to hear kind of like the highlights. And Kristen, do you mind if I ask you to kind of jot down like the big ideas on separate sheets so that we can do the sticker activity. All right, who's volunteering? I'm looking at, anyone want to raise your hand? I'm going to call on someone like that. Second grade teacher. I saw Emma's hand move, so it's now your table. All right, tell us what you got.
They said they want me to share.
Oh, you're making the Save the Harbor staff deal. We want to hear from the community. She doesn't live here.
I can summarize what my group
discussed,
which were a lot of great ideas.
Oh, wait a minute.
I guess I'll start with what's working. People were very pleased with Red Rock Park. They thought it was very well maintained. There were a lot of social gatherings there, so it's really like an appealing space. There were some comments about how there used to be covered benches there, but there are no longer. Now the benches are uncovered, and it would be nice to have some more covered beaches so that when folks are hot, they can cool off in the shade, and when it's raining as well. They love that the parking's free, that it's accessible, that the beach is open to the public, and also just that it's such a nice vista, like with the walkway. They see folks outside all the time using the walkway, and how it's very, populated when the tide is, when the water quality is safe. People are on the beach enjoying themselves. And then moving on a little bit to talk about what's not working. One of the big concerns that people voiced was actually safety issues on Lakeshore Drive. Oh, Lynn Shore Drive, sorry. And how there's a lack of speed signage that sort of alerts you if you're going too fast. Also that there aren't really enough crosswalks that connect the steps. Yeah, the staircases. So that's an accessibility concern. Let me know if I'm speaking too fast, Kristen. And also that there are a lot of trucks driving down Lynn Shore Drive, even though there should be no trucks driving on that street. They were talking about how they want a little bit more enforcement around the policies there. Also regarding Red Rock Park, there's no bathroom. And so people unfortunately will relieve themselves on the rock itself, which can get a little smelly. So putting bathrooms there. And then, yeah, obviously water quality. I think that'll be no surprise to anyone. Another thing that folks mentioned was that dogs will often be on the beach, even when the red flags are up, and that's really unsafe for the dogs themselves because they'll be licking what's on the ground and stuff. So just having better signage around dogs being allowed there when it's red flag time. And then also regarding the red flags, they notice that people will still be on the beach when the red flags are up. And we sort of discussed how, like, I think oftentimes red flags might connote just that you're not allowed to swim, but really here it's a concern of like, you actually shouldn't go on the sand at all on the beach itself. So maybe having some more DCR staff to like make sure that people aren't actually going onto the beach when it's unsafe. And then the last thing is that there was also, folks were just sad that the Pebble Beach is no longer there. That used to be down at Deer Cove, because when DCR was, they were rebuilding Lynn Shore Drive, they like put a lot of pylons near Deer Cove, and that got rid of the Pebble Beach that used to be there. And so folks were feeling nostalgic and sad about that. Yeah, did I miss? Does anyone have any other comments? Okay.
Can you guys hear me? I can talk for the group that was online if nobody else wants to.
Yes, control.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Yes? Oh,
Yes.
okay. So we were saying about the same things that were just heard. But we also was talking about flooding. There was that wasn't mentioned by the previous group. So there's some issue with flooding when the waves are high and there's a lot of storms. So a solution was brought up of building something a little bit higher on top of the walls in the area that's closer to going towards Swampscott, like that area there. And I've seen it actually flood. There's been plenty of pictures, plenty of videos of it. So that was an issue that wasn't mentioned just then. And also the signage wasn't mentioned, because people still go on the beach when they're not supposed to. Like I've seen families walking with their small children, and I would go and tell them, like, you shouldn't be on the beach. And another woman mentioned the same thing, and people would say, well, I'm walking, with my feet in the water, but if it's high bacteria, they still shouldn't be doing that. So I think like clearer signage would help, like saying, there's a high bacteria level, and have it be translated as well, and in more numerous places along the wall of the beach somehow. I'm not sure how that could be accomplished, but it just needs to be more frequent signage as you go down the beach so people can understand that they're not supposed to be in the water. So those are two things I think I didn't hear from the previous group. And I don't know if anyone else online wants to say something.
Did anyone talk about the first question? How do you use the beach? Yeah, because I like all this is really good, but like here in Lakeville, you guys zeroed in on Red Rock Park. And the idea that there's free parking. Like those are two really positive things, I think. So yeah, as we're
Yeah, we did mention positive things. We did say that there's a lot of community building events, like the music events that happen on the beach. The 4th of July event that happens. We said that the green space is amazing for families. We see people walking their dogs. We see people doing healthy living activities like walking and just running along the beach. It's a great place for contemplation. I see a lot of people just sitting out and doing their mental health work, just looking at the waves. So there's a lot of great attributes of having that space, especially for community building and events, and for just staying healthy and communing with your family and community.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I'm going to go to the Nahant Beach group. Not that you necessarily talk about Nahant Beach, but just try to keep it in this. So
Feel free to add anything that I missed. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Yeah. All right.
So my name is Heather McLeod. I was with this lovely group over here. We did talk about Nahant and Kings Beach. There was quite a lot of overlap, so some of them I'll talk about broadly and some are more specific. As far as what's working, I wish we listed more, but it's not a lot. And we are, a lot of us are using it for walking on the beach with our dogs sometimes. We were happy that there's piping clover still there at Nahant Beach. That's pretty much all we put, but we'd like to be doing a lot more than that. I'll talk a little bit about what's not working first though. So we called out about the algae. That's a big problem. Invasive species was talked about. Trash was a big topic. Cigarette butts, plastic bottles filled with sand, needles, fishing gear, what did you say you found a bunch of? Like rubber gaskets?
Rubber gaskets.
Loads of rubber gaskets. So that's not great. And as far as what our values are and what we want to change, we do want to be able to be out there and feel safe. So being able to sit on the beach, being able to swim, especially for kids, making sure that the kids feel like they can be on the beach and not be afraid that they are stepping on needles. So that was a big topic as well. And we talked about a lot of ideas of what we could do. Some of them were a little crazy. One that we talked about was allow Nahant Beach to go and replace it with a bridge. And that could allow the water to flow more. Again, I'm not a scientist, so I'm not sure what the implications of that are, but we need to throw every idea on the table, no matter how crazy it is. We also talked a lot about just people making sure they clean up after themselves, making sure we're trying not to contribute to the microplastic pollution. And what else do we have here? An investment in the drainage system. Obviously, that's a big problem as well. Did I miss anything that you'd really like to bring up at this point? Awesome. You look like you have something to say.
Looking at the infrastructure, man-made infrastructure, and see if it can be modified.
In what way?
Well, like the Nahant Causeway.
Yeah.
You could take out a section, put a bridge in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much infrastructure.
Yeah.
Maybe some of it could be modified.
Yeah.
And through, it's like dams cross bridges, across rivers. There's gotta be some way that these things should be modified so that they can be with the system that's already here in place. And I said to go back 100 years and take a look at the maps to see what was working 100 years ago before we put all of this infrastructure in. And maybe we can get a clue from the past what we could do today.
All right, our final group.
Could you come up here so everyone in the room can hear? Yeah, I can hold it up for you. It's just a comment. Just let her know that we're gonna record it. We are recording the chat. I can hold
Section's easy. Okay, so my name's Dylan Dobbin from Tierney. How's that? Is that better? My name's Dylan Dobbin. I am a Nahant resident, kite surfer, use the beach every day. This is very much important to me. So we talked about how people use the beach, and I see lots and lots of people use the beach every day. So it's amazing how many people use the beach. People do, there's a lot of just average walking. Whenever the weather's decent enough, they walk, they dog walk. There's just beach going.
Are you talking about Nahant specifically or both beaches? Or?
Well, both, but I have more experience with Nahant, but our table had Kings Beach as well. So this is a general Nahant Beach and Kings Beach. And I know the uses are a little slightly different on Nahant Beach. And I'll talk about something we have in Nahant, but this covers both. So we got them both. There's fishing, there's a lot of surfing, windsurfing. There are events, people do, birthday parties and things like that, wedding, after wedding events. There's family gatherings, bird watching. The bird watching is fantastic. Lots of great birds.
And then just sunrises and sunsets. You see people just out enjoying sunrises and sunsets all the time. Oh, and one thing that I've noticed just on the Nahant side, particularly a big use of the beach is relief from summer heat. So beautiful summer weekend day, people use the beach to the maximum. And I guess my only concern about that is they're not allowed, they can't use it to the maximum because the parking lot fills up. And so I think a lot of people avoid going there just because they know on a good day they can't. So that's one thing we'd like to address. Okay, so what will change, what we think global warming will do to us? Well, we mentioned continued access. We put that down as what will change. We think that some of the sand availability may change. We've noticed that the beach, at least I've noticed on the Nahant side, the beach has been extremely stable for many, many years. Just this year with the 2 spring high tides and just the moderate storms, it's dramatic. There's actually 3 to 4 feet missing. I haven't measured it, but I mean, I'm not exaggerating that at all. So there's 3 to 4 feet missing. So the beach all of a sudden is not very stable. I don't know how much of that's just the winter erosion we'll get back, but it's not typical. So increased erosion is probably going to be an issue. Let's see, we talked about dune restoration, just improving all the vegetation. And then obviously, we're going to keep mentioning it, but water quality, but also particularly just to tie it into the global warming, the water quality is dramatically, you guys all know this, but the record rains we've had this year, so record red flags. I mean, it's literally unusable. I don't know, the percentages, how many days for red flag, but in terms of using the beach, and then just me personally, one of the reasons that maybe the action isn't happening is people don't, the risks aren't tangible. So people continue to use the beach. They don't have tangible risks. Well, right now I'm getting over Giardia, and that's kind of the only way you get that. I didn't have any other risk factors for it. So and also I know a good friend of mine that almost died of sepsis, and his doctor said, yes, you got it from the polluted water of Nahant, and the details of the infection are, yes, that you absolutely got it there. So, it does affect people. And, we literally can't bring the kids to the beach in the summer. We'd love to have a lot more activities. Kids are screaming for activities there, and we can't do that as often as we'd like. I guess along those lines, on a more positive note, somebody brought up, in terms of the usage, they just thought of what the youth are saying. Somebody had access to how the kids would like to use the beach, and they would love to, increase water sports, have STEM programs, just anything they can do to get to local beaches would be an improvement in terms of the usage of the beach. Yeah, and also, kids today are very much into what they can do to take care of the environment. So that was just sort of the adolescent perspective. Let's see. So we mentioned water quality. We talked about it'll change, flooding will become more common. Somebody also mentioned that, the water flooding, some of it happens at Kings Beach through the existing outfall pipe. So that the outfall pipe actually has flooding come into it during storm systems, and actually that causes some of the flooding. So then we said, okay, what's not working today? Obviously, algae and water quality are high on the list. Erosion is something brand new this year that I've noticed. I didn't notice erosion didn't seem to be a risk for these beaches at all, but this year it's becoming seems like an obvious risk. Some of the things that aren't working today are also, like I mentioned, hot summer days. We just don't have the capacity to handle the burst of usage on hot summer days. The signage, people mention the signage quite a bit. So there's just a lot of information in terms of the water quality, flooding issues. And so we need the way to get the information to people. And so there's a lot of suggestions on how to have better signage or just better information from the public about the beaches. Maybe even just like more like a good webcams or something that cover the beaches and what all the information is, so people can have access to that. And then another thing we mentioned was that the flooding is probably going to increase, and so ways to address the flooding. So we know that the flooding are starting to become somewhat regular. We're going to get it several times a year, and every time it seems to happen, it's sort of treated as an emergency. News trucks come down, And we'd like to see the systems in place so that it's actually just a normal, like there's easy ways to shut off the streets. There's easy ways to do any of the cleanup that's required, or that the systems are hardened against having rocks go across the road or whatever. Oh, and just in terms of what's not working, and then what we'd like to see happen, and we'd like our kids to have in the future, is not, to try not to harden the whole area and just have, cement walls 30 feet high covering the whole area. So it'd be nice to just have some beach left when we, I know it's difficult as things go on, but anything you can do to preserve that for as long as possible, like, the rocks, the rubble beaches or whatever, I think are great ideas. And we actually love, in terms of planning for the next 100 years, I'd like to see more of those kinds of plans. Like, what can we do about just putting temporary breakwaters out at the, to protect this bay? And anyway, sorry going on.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Do you got, let me get this on the record.
People use the beaches, not just the beaches, but the walkway, the causeway, because we have the Lynn, people walk there constantly. That's where the flooding is, the water comes, the contamination. It should really be tested pretty much all year round. Like, to stop it, when is it? They stop at the end of September or even before that is ludicrous, because it needs to be in our face, because that's just going to continue to raise awareness. And, people walking their dogs will realize, wow, this is a real health hazard. I mean, God bless you, you just getting over that, and this person accepts this. I mean, this is a crisis of contamination. This isn't just like, this is a crisis. It's affecting people's health and well-being, and it needs to be addressed like today, not tomorrow or another 5 decades go by. So, I mean, just testing. Why can't we test it every day? I don't understand what the big deal is, so that people know. Like, that's
what they do. They test every day. They test the bacteria.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michelle, and
Guys are bringing this.
I'm just bringing a voice for young. I am a community organizer here in Lynn, but I went in 2019. I had the opportunity to reach out to students from high school. One of the high schools, Classical. I went and we were talking about different things. And then when I mentioned about opportunities, you have no idea. As you said before, they are really invested. They want to invest in the global warming and the climate. But in this particular case, they were looking for opportunities. And I think we need to also open opportunities for them to take care of the ocean. And surfing, but then kayak, and then they even were asking like a STEM program. And for the record, we wrote a letter because part of the exercise was to show them what you can do. And we wrote a letter to Northeastern Marine Center over there because they wanted the dispute of Nahant and stuff. And they were asking them to please come to Lynn because they want to open up a program. So besides the creating this future is also to give them opportunities on how they can participate, how can they invest, because sometimes they don't even know where to go or what to do. And we can even start with the small programs like some of the teams were mentioning bird watching and do programs in the summer. So I think that it will be also in the efforts of you guys are doing is to reach out to the young because they really want to invest. For me, it was surprising because I thought that they might wanted to be away and then be in this. And no, they wanted it to stay. Like, I don't want, we discussed about even malls, and they said, I don't want a big mall. I want a mom and pop shop. I want to go be able to enjoy the ocean and go back home. That's all they wanted to do. Well, that's included, yes.
Do you have any last comments of folks who want to come up, share something that has not been added? We're gonna have one more speaker come by and make a couple comments. But any more comments? Anyone want to come up, add something? Awesome.
I was asked by Chris to come up, so. Good evening, everyone. Great to be here. My name is Dan Cahill. I'm a state representative from the 10th Essex District, which encompasses pretty much for people from Lynn, the east side of the city. And at the State House, I'm also the chairman of Natural Resources and the Environment Committee. So we have been very active this session thus far relative to issues that impact resiliency, that impact our coastal communities, but also a lot of the issues inland as well. I know there's a lot of issues. I could go on for a long time. It's later in the evening, but I just want to give a couple of highlights. I know you've been reading the paper recently with respect to Kings Beach. I can tell you that there are constant meetings with state and federal officials with respect to resolution of the problem. We know that there is an outflow problem there. We know there's a pollution problem there. Thankfully, there's no question. The issues become, how do we resolve it? There are a lot of opinions and a lot of scientists that have a lot of different views on it. But in communications with the administration, they're looking for more of a long-term solution to the problem, not Band-Aids. However, we are very active about pursuing some new technologies and some that are unproven. And this might be an opportunity to use Kings Beach as a testing ground for some of that technology. And if they can be employed elsewhere in the Commonwealth, that'd be great. But without data, it's really tough to spend public money unless you have the information, which the testing, and I want to thank Chris Mancini and Save the Harbor and Save the Bay. And I know that there are many friendly groups here as well. Your advocacy over the years are what's brought us to this location now, where we are with the process. I think the item showed an article 100 years ago where there was questions and concerns about pollution on Kings Beach. So this is not a new issue, but it's an issue that we can't just kick to our kids, my kids. It's not right. I grew up on that beach. My parents live on the beach. I've swam there my whole life. That's why I'm probably freakishly tall. I still swim there. I probably should, but I'm just so used to it. But it is not just Kings Beach, but Nahant Beach and Short Beach, all are in Phillips and Fisherman. They're all fantastic assets that we have that we should all be able to use on a regular basis. And it costs money, but that's just how we have to solve the problem. Everything costs money, and it costs $100 million today. It's going to cost $200 million in 10 years. And to kick it down the road is ridiculous. So on the local level, it's unprecedented the amount of cooperation we have. Swampscott and Lynn are coordinating efforts, which in my 20 plus years, I've never really seen that happen before. Lynn Water and Sewer is going to be videotaping all of the pipes in East Lynn. I can't wait to watch the footage. So we have to eliminate. We have to do some source elimination, make sure that there aren't illegal tie-ins. And we know with the CSO, there was an issue about CSOs and historic rains. I mean, folks, it's not rocket science. I'm a political scientist, not a real scientist, but I know that when it rains and we've driven our cars on the roads with oil leaking, and we have pesticides and rodenticides in our lawns and in traps for animals, rodent control, when we have just trash in the streets, that gets swept up and that gets pushed into the ocean. That's where it's always been meant to go since humans inhabited this area. But there's so many of us, density is terrible. Not in a bad sense, but the density for environmental impact, we have to be able to capture all of that, or as much of that rainwater as possible to be able to treat it. So on a state level, Governor Healy has made it a priority of her administration, along with Secretary Rebecca Tepper, to focus on long-term planning for Massachusetts as we experience the continued effects of climate change. There's never been a comprehensive review of all of our assets and all of our infrastructure throughout the Commonwealth, and that includes tributaries, that includes ponds, includes everything in the ecosystem. They are going to put together a comprehensive plan, and there's going to be a price tag associated. So if it's 10 or $20 billion of infrastructure that needs to be put into place, we need to make that investment. It can't be done overnight. However, if we make an investment and it's done over a series of years, it's great for local economies, but it's really great for all of us. And it's just another reason why people should want to move and live in Massachusetts. We care about each other. We care about our environment. And we have the smartest people, they say, in the world. I think so. Why can't we fix this problem? We can. And it takes community groups like yourselves, these types of meetings. I know it's late on a Wednesday night, but like these are the types of meetings that take place that really effectuate change. Without groups like there's probably so many groups here. Let's say the Harvard State of the Bay is extraordinarily active and effective on beacon health. Without your advocacy and your support, these things just get kicked on to the next year. It's like, oh yeah, we have this problem, but let's just focus on other things. No, this is a serious problem, and this is one that we're dealing with on a daily basis. So I'm very excited that you're here. I love the exchange of ideas. We love to hear from folks. Sand moving, I mean, it's just natural erosion. We're looking at expedited permitting for some of the scientifically proven methods of reducing erosion in Massachusetts. There are many nonprofit organizations and our academic institutions that have proven scientific methods to do so, but no one wants to go through like 2 years of permitting to restore a salt marsh. And you may think that's maybe onerous. It is. We need to do a better job of eliminating some of those hurdles because we want these types of programs to go into effect. So we're seriously looking at even specific things like salt marshes, which apparently are like the greatest thing in the world to reduce carbon and protect coastlines. I had no idea until I became the chair of this committee. But I said to myself, it seems pretty easy. And apparently it is. But we want to eliminate some of the obstacles to that. And I could go on and on. It's late. Thank you. I just want to also point out that I have a great team that I work with. Senator Crichton has been, an advocate for the beaches and sat on many boards throughout his career. And Representative Armini has been a fierce advocate for her district, and Representative Capano as well. We work extremely well together, and we are hyper focused on this issue, and we have to solve it. And we're really grateful that all of you are in support of that, because without your support, it makes it very difficult for us to be able to advocate for the resources. I'll end there. I'll hang on for a little bit, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. I just want to give a shout out again. Chris Mancini's like, anytime I need him to go to any type of meeting or show up, he comes and he hears the same stuff over and over again, but he's there and he's just passionate about it. And he's such a well-respected voice in the state that it's not just the local group just wants this. No, Save the Harbor, Save the Bay has been instrumental. If you haven't been out to the Harbor Islands, by the way, or any other wonderful assets, which we would love to be able to run some tours and opportunities for residents to leave from our beautiful state paid for ferry terminal to be able to explore our many islands. And we went on a tour, like it's wild. But the amount of infrastructure out there and just the beauty, we should be really allowing cities like Lynn and residents in this area to be able to hop conveniently on a boat and go check out and enjoy some of the assets that you're paying for in your tax dollars that are out there in the ocean. But we would really like to try to increase our kind of local tourism to some of our beautiful assets. So thank you again. You go. I'll hang out for a little bit. I really appreciate all you're doing. Thank you.
We have one comment on Zoom. Becky, would you like to say something?
I do. I actually just want to follow on to that last comment about the ferry. What we didn't talk about in our kind of online Zoom thing, and I didn't hear in the room, the ferry, like the commuter ferry in the summer, I've never had a chance to ride it because I'm not able to ride it Monday to Friday to go to work. So I'm just wondering if something can happen, if this group is the right avenue to push for it, but to go back and look at maybe bringing a ferry to Lynn that runs on weekends, so that families could actually use it as a way to either come from the city to Lynn, think of it both ways, and then also go from Lynn by boat to the city. Salem does that. Yeah, I know it was a boat issue. I know it was an ownership issue because it was a lent ferry or a leased ferry from the Harbor Islands. And so it was available during the week to run for commuters. But the schedule, if you're not a commuter who accesses Boston by way of the ferry terminal on specific commuter hours, it kind of was not easy to ride. So something that you could go on weekends and maybe take the kids and go into the city, or like I said, maybe some people from the city want to come up and come to the beach for a day. So that's all.
Thanks, Becky. You're not the first person to bring that up. I think it's a hope for a lot of folks. What we've heard from Phil Ang at the MBTA is that we're going to have it again this summer at the reduced rate. Is we really there's other ways, but one of the big ways we can do this is really show the need for it and show the demand. He wants it to be, the team wants it to be on the weekends. We got to show that there's a need and a demand for it. So let me just, I'm going to get back to questions, but I want to give instructions for the end of the meeting, just because I'm noticing some restlessness here. But I will go back to the group. Thank you again, Rep Cahill, for being here. Those very, very kind words. I asked him if he'd come give a toast to my birthday. So the final thing we're going to do as you guys are walking out is everyone's going to get 5 stickers. The color doesn't matter. What we tried to do was capture some of the high values that we heard in your report out on these 2 easels over here divided into 4. And we'd like you to use your 5 stickers to kind of weigh those or provide a weight. You can use your 5 stickers in any way. You put them all 5 on one thing. You could put 1 on 5 different things. You could put 3 and 2, do whatever. Again, it's one more tool to give us a sense, and you're not going to see flagging or a pollution or ferry up there. Doesn't mean we're not going to deal with those things. We were trying to get at, again, the values for you at the beach. Like if we see lots of boats on swimming and water sports, it's like that tells us that, okay, you know, the beach is important. We run it. If all the stickers are on walking the boardwalk, and then we're going to go, you know, people don't really care about the sand part of the beach. Like that's going to change our analysis and recommendations, just to give you a sense. So if you don't see something up there that you think should be up there, just come grab a leader and we could probably make another chart. But if you don't see something like that, there was a reason for it. We don't want you to think that. So I think our staff's going to just hand these out. You can do that at your leisure. I will say now, thank you all for being here. This is our first in person since 2019. I'm really impressed with the turnout. You all said you would come and then you all actually showed up, which is amazing. We have, I think, more people than RSVP'd, so that's terrific. And yeah, thank you for all of your input. And yes, go. Oh yeah, and then don't forget to talk to Harvard Dental.
Your local boy. Thank you so much for all that you're doing, and Chris, and all that everybody has been doing. And I heard you speak a lot about long-term solutions with no timelines. I was encouraged when Chris moved into the area, and I read an article he wrote about an 8-year plan. I think that was 8 years ago. No offense, Chris. But you know, I'm going to be 70. I'm going to be 70 this year. So to me, I'm like, okay, long term, you know, what does that mean? Mm-hmm. So I would just put a bug in your ear, all of you guys. Mm-hmm. What are some short-term solutions we can come up with? What are some short-term solutions for Stacy's Brook outflow? I live right there. I smell the stench. I see the pollution. My son can't let his dog walk out there most of the time because it's polluted and contaminated. This is a crisis. What can we do short-term to shut down Stacy's Brook? They had a holding tank in Swampscott, to my knowledge, till 2015, when the EPA put the kibosh on it because it was chlorine, and you know, the environmentalists were worried about the marine life. Well, what about the people life? We're so worried about the marine life. I mean, seriously, I think the marine, I think the salt water takes care. I'm not worried about, I am worried about the fish, because that used to be one of the best places to catch striped bass. ever. We always fish there, and you can't anymore because it's so contaminated. Can't all these intelligent environmentalists that have been in school for 100 years figure out another solution to, other than chlorine?
Yeah.
Put the water in the tank again and clean it with something else short term. Shut that thing down or shut it down. I mean, you know, there's gotta be a short-term solution. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a concerned citizen who wants the beach to be pristine for my grandchildren. All of our grandchildren, we have a beautiful coastline. There's gotta be some short-term solutions that we can put into effect.
Yeah, to echo what Rep. Cahill said, you know, he did a great job sort of laying out at the high level what all of the people in the room, what those conversations are. We're closer than ever before. I'm not a politician, so I don't feel saying, giving, at the risk of giving false hope, there have been, it's like, could it even happen this year based on some of these ideas that are out there? But as Rep. Cahill said, and they're in the process right now, the bench tests are happening for things like ultraviolet light or different types that are non-chlorine, but things that do the job in a similar way. So there is, but it's, yeah, those things are all on the table. Those things are all on the table. Yeah. No, it's, thanks. That's good to have on the record too.
So, just real quick on that, just layer things. So, what are the issues? What are the technologies that we've asked to do a pilot program, maybe possibly this summer or in the fall? Is a UV treatment. Most engineers think that it wouldn't help the situation, but we've asked to be able to at least have a pilot program to see if it would have some impact. They use it in Newburyport, and they had some mixed responses to it. So we're in the process of working with the state and the feds to be able to, and to secure a UV kind of trailer machine to hook it up to see if that technology would work. It seems like it probably won't work long term, but we're thinking that maybe as a short term, it could mitigate the pollution while we're trying to solve the long term solution. So you may see something, you know, it's supposed to be like the size of a trailer. The cost is significantly cheaper than the permanent solution, but it is something that we're trying to secure a machine for. We're working with engineers and environmental groups to be able to secure that. So we're hopeful, but it's going to be a couple $100,000, and maybe we can run it for the summer and fall. But those are some of the short-term things. But definitely, we can't chlorinate. EP came in and said no more chlorination. If they change their rulings tomorrow, we would be chlorinating the next day. And we've also said, well, what if we just chlorinate? Like, what are you going to do to us? Not good. We've got the response. They would fine us significantly, so we can't break the rules, unfortunately. But those are some of the short-term solutions that we need to do, but we need a long-term solution.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Please, before you go, put your stickers up and take a banana. Talk to Giovanna and